Thank you so much for watching.
Hey Exeteers, thanks again for stopping by. If you're new to the channel, my name is Riley and I used to be a Jehovah's Witness. Thank you so much for joining for this very last minute impromptu live stream to discuss that documentary that aired last night featuring Rebekah Vardy talking about her experiences as growing up as one of Jehovah's Witnesses and the abuse and shunning that she faced. That's something that I'm sure the majority, if not all, ex-JWs can relate to, particularly the shunning. So yeah, I just thought it would be great to speak about it. So there will be an opportunity for anyone who's comfortable to come on camera and speak about their own experiences of shunning. The link is in the chat. So yeah, if you're happy to do that, please feel free. Particularly would like to speak to anyone who was disciplined for having association with disfellowshipped persons, particularly relatives. So if that was your experience, please come on camera and let's talk about it. There's a particular reason why I'd like to do that. It's in response to the statement that the organization made, which was featured in the documentary. So I'm very grateful to have Mrs. Jexit here helping me. She's handling the mics and working the sound desk while being a woman. While being a woman, and she's not even wearing a head covering. So take that, Watchtower. Okay, so I think we've already got some comments in the chat. Okay, so I think Mimi's asking about where she can watch the documentary as being a resident outside of the UK. Yeah, so I don't know if that will work, but nothing to lose by trying. So yeah, if you can try using a VPN to watch it, it's on the Channel 4 website. Okay, so what other comments do we have? We have a comment from my good friend, Jeannie. Hi, Jeannie. How are you doing? Thanks for tuning in. You may or may not know this, but Jeannie is in large part responsible for me waking up. I've mentioned many times before on the channel, or maybe not many times, but several times, that the thing that kicked it all off, the thing that started my whole waking up process was a t-shirt. I was scrolling through Facebook, and you know how Facebook reminds you of things that you've posted on that day a year or two or several years ago. So I was on the bus scrolling through Facebook and a memory came up, and Jeannie was one of the people who commented on the post that Facebook was reminding me about, but her profile picture had changed to a t-shirt. So I was like, that's weird. So I tapped on her profile so I could see a bigger picture of the t-shirt, and it said in big bold letters across it, apostate. And I immediately got terrified. I saw all of these JW memes on her profile and I was terrified. So I quickly came off it, and but that stuck in my mind for weeks. It stuck in my mind. I could not stop thinking about it. I was like, why would anyone voluntarily call themselves an apostate? Why would anyone self-identify that way? An apostate is like the worst thing ever. And I was already out of the organization at this time. I was already out, but I still believed I was physically out and mentally in. But eventually I had to answer that question. So I went on the internet and started looking at what apostates had to say. And I had woken up within 2 weeks. All thanks to Jeannie's t-shirt. So thank you so much, Jeannie. What was the term that we used to have in the organization? The person who, your first Bible teacher who brought you into the organization, they would call him your spiritual parent. Well, Jeannie is my unspiritual mother. That's what I'm calling you from now on, Jeannie. Okay, so do you have any more comments in the chat? No. Okay, so please let me know in the chat if you've actually seen the documentary, and what did you like about it? What did you dislike about it? Anything in particular that you want to talk about? Just put that in the chat. Jean is laughing her head off. I think that's the first time they've actually put a name to that story. Yeah, long overdue. Okay. How many people do we have on at the moment? 16. Oh, who's this? Mental health. No head covering. That means the angels will be offended. Definitely. Did you hear that, Mrs. Jexit?
Yeah.
Gabriel is angry with you right now.
Oh, no.
Okay, so yeah, if you'd like to join the conversation, that is the link. So just click on that. Make sure you have, like, you're in reasonably quiet surroundings so that there's no background noise. Put your camera on, and yeah, let's talk. Also, please share this this stream with anyone who you think will be interested. So last week, I done something that I haven't done before. I posted on Facebook XJW stuff that was to all of my friends on Facebook. So usually when I post XJW stuff on Facebook, I restrict who can view the post. And I usually restrict it to other XJWs, people who I know will understand. But when I heard that this documentary was coming out, I thought, I want people who are not JWs or XJWs to see this post. I want them to watch this documentary. So it was a bit unnerving to do that, which surprised me, to be honest, because I've been, out of the organization and speaking against it publicly for quite some time now. But I still felt nervous about doing that for some reason. But I did it, and the response to the post was overwhelmingly positive from all of my, non-JW, never been JW friends on Facebook. And I would like the same to happen with this one. When this stream is over, I'm going to post this on my Facebook profile as well and make sure that everybody can see it. So please share this with ex-JWs, JWs, non-JWs alike. I'd really appreciate it. Okay, so Mimi says that she was shunned as an unbaptized teen. Wow. For 3 years or so, they were doing that, which many JWs don't realize they did used to do. Yes, that is true. I've heard of a few cases, not many, a few cases where an unbaptized person was shunned or even like publicly reproved without being baptized. I actually have a personal friend who wasn't baptized and was publicly reproved as a teenager, which is very, very rare and technically against the rules. They're not actually supposed to do that. Okay. Oh, we have Sarah Davies, a fellow activist in the chat. Hi, Sarah. I hope you're doing well. I haven't spoken to you in a while. I hope you're good. Who else? Nesbo. Hi, Nesbo. How are you doing? Great to see you. Great to have you here. And who else do we have? That's it for now. Oh, but the numbers are going up, which is good. Great. Okay, so yeah, if you saw the documentary, please put your comments in the chat. Let me know what you think about it, and we'll talk about it. Great to hear you're okay, Sarah. Okay, so Bailey Althea. What got me was the booklet on how to deal with those that have sinned. The booklet only for the elders. I never knew that booklet existed. It's a tick box exercise. Absolutely. And I know so many JWs who had no idea that there even was such a book. I mean, even elders' wives are unaware of its existence, which is absolutely crazy. But yeah, um, and something that I want to address that I saw in the documentary, that they said that, I mean, they didn't actually quote this in the documentary, but I've heard them say before that all the information in that Shepherd the Flock of God book is information that is publicly available in all of their literature. That is simply not true. The first time that I read that book, I learned so much that I had no idea of before. No idea whatsoever. Not just things that I'd never read before, things that doctrinally I did not know. So it's an absolute lie. It's an absolute lie. Just one moment. Mrs. Jackson is communicating with me. What was that? Okay. All right. So, yes, Mrs. Jackson has very, Mrs. Jackson has reminded me that not everyone who's on the stream will have seen the documentary. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit of what it was about. So Rebekah Vardy, who is a celebrity here in the UK, she's married to a professional footballer. And also grew up as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. So she was on a documentary last night, which was made by Channel 4, and she was speaking about her experiences growing up with as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. She unfortunately and very, very sadly suffered sexual abuse and was treated appallingly as a result of that. So that's what the documentary was about. It was about her experiences and trying to understand what happened to her and why. And she also spoke with other people who have experienced similarly distressing circumstances in the organization as well. So that's what the documentary was about. It was on Channel 4. It aired last night at 10 p.m. If you haven't seen it, please go to the Channel 4 website. You'll be able to watch it on their catch-up service. Jeannie says, I was disgusted at the way Rebekah was dealt with at Chelmsford, leaving her at the entrance. Yeah, that was terrible, but not surprising. Absolutely, I'm sure that they have cameras watching the entrance so that they can see who is ringing the bell. They saw her there with a camera crew and microphones and everything. There's no way they were going to answer her. If she didn't call while she was standing at the door, nobody would have paid her any attention whatsoever. And Auxiliary Pioneer says, I wonder how they can keep denying that they shun ex-members. We all know different. Absolutely. Even current members know different. And as we were watching the documentary as well, Mrs. Jackson said to me, so current Jehovah's Witnesses who are watching this and seeing that the organization is blatantly lying in their statements, what must they think? Would they recognize it as a lie, or would they, how do they resolve that? And I think it would just be an exercise in cognitive dissonance. They would see that it is a lie, but they wouldn't be able to consciously acknowledge that that's what it is, even though they know full well that if one of their relatives were disfellowshipped that very day, they would have to break off contact with them. But at the same time, they wouldn't be able to admit that the organization lies about their stance on that. And but yeah, that's what the life of a Jehovah's Witness is like. You have to keep deluding yourself all the time. And Anna Bizarro Duda, what an interesting name. So not true. Elders get a pass if they kept sin to themselves after 3 years. Absolutely. Who as an active JW knew that? Who as an active JW knew that if an elder confessed to a sin that happened 3 years in the past and they've behaved themselves since then, that they get a pass? Who knew that? Where in their literature has that been published and made freely and publicly available? It's an absolute lie. And Nesbo says, faded and shunned here, a broken, divided family thanks to old Colty Cole over there. Absolutely, yeah. myself the same. Mimi, my mum didn't know about it until I told her. She said the elder's manual, there's no elder's manual. She didn't believe me at first, but now she just accepts that it exists and says, is there a part two? Not yet. Maybe Mimi is still writing it. Oh, here we go. Says she doesn't need to see it because it's for the elders and she trusts them. How sad. How sad. Cody Downs says, hello everyone, just got done watching the documentary. It was great. So sad what we have all been through in our own unique ways. Sending love to everyone. Thanks for all you do, Riley. And thank you for commenting, Cody. It was indeed very, very sad. It was really hard to listen to in parts. Paul Williams says, has anyone presented a counter argument to shunning to a witness using biblical text or logic, and how did the witnesses respond? To be honest with you, Paul, I don't think it would make a difference. I don't think it would make a difference because they are so conditioned to just blindly trust, follow, and accept anything that comes from the governing body, whether or not it goes against Bible principles. To them, Bible principles are what the governing body says they are. So I don't think that would be an effective line of reasoning. It should be, but it wouldn't be, unfortunately. Well, at least that's my opinion. Mental Health says, my uncle was an elder when he died. The very next day, elders showed up at his home and asked his wife to point to them where his book bag was, and they raided his office looking for the elder's manual. Oh my goodness. Oh man. Because, you can't have an elder's manual staying in the house, with a woman and there's no elder there. Oh. I mean, while we were watching the documentary, I was telling Mrs. Jexit about the elder's manual, and I've heard that in Bethel, I'm sure, who did I hear this from? I think it was from Ben Ford. Ben, if you ever get to see this, please let me know, correct me if I'm wrong. But in Bethel, where they actually print the books, sisters, women are not allowed to carry the boxes that contain the books. That's how much, women aren't trusted with or near the elder's manual. But at the same time, as they said in the documentary, that they believe men and women are equal. Ridiculous. Nesbo says, most current JWs won't watch it, so the lies the Watchtower gave by way of a response will have little effect on them. They'll brush the whole documentary away as a product of Satan's lying system. Yeah, I think you're right. I'm sure there will be a few that would have watched it. I post a lot of content on TikTok, and I post a lot of my TikToks on my WhatsApp status. And there are active Jehovah's Witnesses who regularly watch my WhatsApp statuses. Regularly. I have a few regulars. So I know that there are, I mean, even if they're just doing it from the stance of wanting to defend and protect the organization, there are witnesses who will watch things like that. And some are watching it, obviously, because they are PIMQ, physically in, mentally questioning. That stands for. Looking for Answers says, really pleased I never went through with my baptism over 50 years ago. I get put off when I was told to shave my beard off. Yeah. Well, yeah, you had a lucky escape. Definitely. That manual is crazy because it's too formulaic. How does that manual decipher someone's heart condition? Something that is often spoke about. Yeah. They speak a lot about heart condition, but they don't actually care about it at all. The religion is extremely legalistic, the way that they use that elder's manual to determine whether someone is repentant or not. In this day and age, you could literally get an AI to do it. It's got nothing to do with heart condition whatsoever. Nothing to do with it. Okay. Yeah, so just want to say again, if you've only just recently joined, if you'd like to come on and talk about your experience with shunning, particularly if you were disciplined as a JW for having association with someone who was disfellowshipped, I would love to hear your story. In response to the statement that they made about not socially isolating disfellowshipped ones and family relationships being unchanged, complete and utter lies. So I would like to hear from somebody who experienced the exact opposite to come and tell their story. Okay, any new comments? Nesbo, I was really glad the documentary focused more on the religion and less on Vardy's specific experience. I thought it was well done. Could have done with another half hour. Yeah, absolutely. That was my only criticism, was that it was too short. You know, it was too short. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It did focus very heavily on the religion, and it wasn't necessarily trying to sensationalize her experience. If they had approached it that way, I don't think it would have come across correctly at all, particularly when you take into consideration her recent controversies, let's say. Okay. Oh, Witness Underground, thanks for joining. Hey all, great film. Okay, so you managed to see it. Please, could you just let us know, for our viewers who are not in the UK, could you just let us know by way of a comment how you saw it, please? I think that will be very helpful to a lot of people. Sarah says, having a newborn and being shunned, no support or friends, trying to navigate the world was pretty isolating and traumatic. I'm sure it was. You know, I'm sure it was. And that statement that they made is an absolute slap in the face to anyone who's been shunned, because you just know that it is just a bold-faced lie. Okay, Witness Underground says that there's a YouTube link that somebody shared on Twitter. Okay, so yeah, if anyone could find that link, please, I'd greatly appreciate it if you put it in the description. If it's an unofficial link, it probably won't be around for much longer. so yeah, if we do find the link, please try and watch it as soon as possible before it gets taken down. Yes, and watch Witness Underground if you haven't done so already. My last live stream was with the maker of Witness Underground and the participants of that documentary. So please make sure that you watch that. After this video is finished, I'm going to put a link in the description. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is put the actual statement from the organization on the screen. So this is what they said. So this was in response to a survey that Rebekah spoke about. She and the documentary filmmakers posted a survey. They had, I think it was 180, roughly 180 responses. People, you know, telling their story of being disfellowshipped and shunned. And this was the organization's response to that survey. The survey made by your editorial staff with disgruntled former witnesses seems not to consider that most, and that's underlined, most former witnesses do not have feelings of hostility toward their former religion. My question to that is, how would they know? Have they surveyed all former Jehovah's Witnesses and asked them whether or not they have hostile feelings towards their former religion, sorry, tongue-tied, and counted them and collated them to know that the ones who don't have hostile feelings are in the majority? There's no way that you could know that without going through that process. And this is the thing that the organization does. They just say stuff without backing it up. They just say stuff like it's fact and just expect people to just accept it, which is ridiculous. You can't make a claim like that without backing it up with some kind of evidence. How do they know? They don't even speak to former Jehovah's Witnesses. How would they know what their feelings towards the organization are? I mean, that's a perfectly reasonable question that I don't think active witnesses would even ask. Thanks for clarifying that, Mrs. Jogsy. 155 out of the 180 said they had negative feelings about the organization.
And half said they were suicidal.
And half said that they had suicidal thoughts or feelings. And this is another thing that they said. Individual adherence, this is about shunning. Individual adherence will decide whether to stop or limit contact with the person. No change in social relationship. Come on. I mean, there are videos on their own website that say otherwise. There are videos on their website that show parents shunning and ignoring their children. And they say it's a personal decision. But what they omit, what they conveniently leave out, is that if you do make the personal decision to continue having association with a disfellowship person or a disfellowship relative, you will face consequences. They never ever acknowledge that in any of their statements regarding shunning, you know, and it's completely disingenuous. You know, anyone who's shunned by a family member will know that that is the case. I had, when I was briefly living with my mother after being disfellowshipped, 2 elders came round to her house to speak to her and tell her that if I continued staying there, she would not be able to pioneer anymore. And what happened? She chose pioneering over me, you know? So technically, I guess you could say it's a personal decision, but like I said, they don't acknowledge that that personal decision entails consequences if you don't decide the way they want. Okay, and the next thing. Okay, let's come back to that question. Let's have a look at this slide first. Simply misleading and discriminatory to imply that our religion is controlling. Yeah, so that's in response to the allegation that Jehovah's Witnesses are a high control religion. So I was scrolling through an XJW Facebook group this morning, and I saw a comment from Duncan, who was actually in the documentary. He was one of the former elders that was in the documentary. And he said, if you want to see whether or not this is a controlling religion, just go onto the Watchtower Online Library and look up how many times the phrase every aspect is referenced in their literature. So that's exactly what I did. I went onto the online library and I did a search for the term every aspect. Look at this. Moreover, the Apostle Paul had made it clear that a dedicated Christian's life, every aspect of it, may be appropriately considered sacrifice. Scriptural principles need to be applied in every aspect of our lives. In every aspect of our lives, in every aspect of our lives. I mean, just look at that. Every aspect of the Christian ministry. It's crazy. It's just on and on and on and on and on. But they're not a controlling religion.
I love how they use words like disgusting and, you know, to say what people are doing.
Yeah. Honestly, it's crazy. We had a comment just a minute ago.
Oh, yeah. Hold on, let me find it.
Paul Williams, thank you. I asked the CART witnesses how they could justify shunning when it was a major factor to my friend's suicide. They refused to answer, and when pressed, packed up and left. Doesn't surprise me at all. Doesn't surprise me at all. This is the thing. JWs are taught to not think. And on the surface, that might sound like an extreme statement, but it's actually true. If you think back to when you were a JW and you're, you know, learning about how to do the ministry, theocratic ministry school and all of that, you're taught that if somebody asks you a question that you don't have a pre-rehearsed or, you know, answer for, you're supposed to say to them, I'll go away and do some research. You're not taught to reason on that question in that moment and give an answer. You're taught to not think. You're not supposed to think. You're just supposed to regurgitate things that you've already learned in advance. You know, So it doesn't surprise me that those witnesses you spoke to, Paul, did that, because when faced with a question or, a set of circumstances that either they don't know how to respond to or that makes them uncomfortable, the response and the training is to just shut down. So that's exactly what they do. Some more comments here. Thank you. Wolf the Phoenix. My wife's mother is trying to push her way into the life of our 9-year-old son. Our 14-year-old wants nothing to do with her. The 9-year-old would like to. He misses her every time my wife tries to arrange it. She goes silent because our son wants to be normal without the awkward shunning imposed on my wife and I. That's a heartbreaking set of circumstances. I'm so sorry that you're going through that, all of you. That's terrible. And Anna says, it's wicked. Grandparents should be the most wonderful thing in your life. I hate Watchtower. Yeah, absolutely. Jeannie says, couldn't have picked the governing body members to represent them on the documentary. Mr. Rubberface and the whiskey drunkard. Yeah, honestly, as I have an extreme aversion to all of those men on a governing body. As soon as I see their face, it just sickens me, particularly Stephen Lett. But the one that I dislike the most has got to be Gerrit Loesch. I cannot stand him. I think he's the closest you can get to like a real life Bond villain. That's what he just reminds me of. He reminds me of one of those like over the top Bond villain characters, but a real life version. I just can't stand him at all.
We had a troll up in the block.
Oh, we had a first troll. Oh, wow. Okay. Tammy says, Jehovah's Witnesses are extremely brainwashed and indoctrinated. They cannot use their own minds. Absolutely. Absolutely. They're discouraged from using their own minds.
This is what I said.
Disgruntled, that word they love to use. They contradicted themselves by using it, by saying we had no negative feelings. Yeah. It's crazy. Sean Edwards has a question for me. Yeah. What congregation was you in? I was in many congregations during my tenure. So as a child, when my mum started studying the Bible with Jehovah's Witnesses, we were in the New Cross congregation in South London. And then in my early teens, New Cross congregation grew too large, so it split. One half of New Cross and one half of a neighboring congregation called Bermondsey joined together to form the Nunhead congregation. So I was in that congregation until 1994. And then I moved with my mum and my younger brother to Walworth congregation. All these congregations are in South London, by the way. And I was in Walworth congregation until I got married and then moved to Thamesmead South. No, Abbeywood. No, Thamesmead South. I was in Thamesmead South for about 12 years, then to Abbeywood. And that was really my last congregation. And Sean Edwards says he thought he'd seen me before in New Cross congregation. Oh, wow. Wow. So we may actually know each other, Sean. When were you in New Cross congregation? That's interesting. Wow. We were neighbors. Your last congregation was Belvedere. We were neighbors. I was a stone's throw away from Belvedere. Wow. We'll have to talk. Early 90s. So was that Belvedere in the early 90s or New Cross in the early 90s? Because we may have missed each other, because in the early 90s, I would still have been in Nunhead, I think. But yeah, we'll have to talk. We'll have to get together at some point and talk. Tammy G says, Watchtower is very deceptive. The more we as activists expose them, the more this doomsday cult crumbles. Absolutely. Your wife is your wife an ex-witness? And if not, what are her feelings about it? So my wife is not an ex-witness. She's never been a witness, never had anything to do with the witnesses. How do you feel about it? Write it in a comment and then put it up. Yeah, I just want to say about that documentary how well produced it was. It really, really was excellent. I just wish it was a little bit longer, you know. And the people who took part did an excellent job. You know, my hats off to all of them. John, Duncan, Ali, you know, everyone who took part. James, Jason, well done, all of you. And yeah, we just got to keep going. We've just got to keep going, you know, exposing them. I mean, for a documentary like this to be on national television is a huge milestone. It's a huge milestone. The last time I remember anything on national television, apart from the news, you know, like programs, was that Suffer the Little Children in the 90s. You know, that was I'm sure that's the last thing I remember. Was it the late 90s, early 2000s? I may be wrong, but I don't remember anything being on, you know, national media, national television since then. So this is huge. Okay, I'm just gonna put the link up in the chat again, if I can find it. Okay, I'll just do it here. Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Brexit. So that is the link. If you'd like to come on and speak about your experience with shunning, please just click that link, and yeah, you can come on and we can have a chat. And Techie Ben, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. There were a few, but we were encouraged not to watch them, only about 2 or 3 maximum. What were they? Do you remember? I don't remember any. The last one I remember was Suffer the Little Children, which I actually did watch. I watched it with my mum and another sister, in fact. We were those JWs who would watch things like that so that we could defend the organization against the claims that were made. We weren't questioning or anything, but yeah. So I know that there are some, you know, active, believing, faithful JWs who would have watched that documentary yesterday. But I just hope that, you know, it makes them think. Much less coverage than this one. Yeah, this one got, you know, a lot of attention, which I'm really, really grateful for. I just hope that there's more like this to follow. Okay, we have another comment from Jean. My unspiritual mother. The foot soldiers will see the documentary as persecution and will rejoice, thinking Armageddon is near. Yeah, absolutely. They will. They will definitely react that way. And here's the thing. Justified criticism over something that you've done wrong is not persecution. It's just not. But that is the way that they will see it, 100%. Okay, we have another comment from Anna. I agree. I dislike Let because he meets with Watchtower lawyers every week. He knows about CSA yet denied it on JW broadcast. Yeah. Yeah, bold-faced lies was what he said. And he meets with JW lawyers every week. Yeah, they do. That's the thing. They know exact. As ex-JWs, we often ask each other and ourselves, you know, do the governing body know what they're doing? Are they indoctrinated just as much as everyone else? Do they know it's all a scam? You know, questions like that. And I don't think that's an easy question to answer. I definitely think they know that they are deceitful and manipulative. They know that for a fact. But that doesn't mean that they don't believe the lies they're saying, or that they don't believe that it's the truth. To what degree individual members are indoctrinated is something, only they could answer themselves. But they definitely know that they lie and deceive and manipulate. There's no way they couldn't. They just, I guess, justify it to themselves because they believe it's the truth and they think that the ends justifies the means. I was a ministerial servant and a regular pioneer in my time. I was in 14 different congregations in Western Canada, experienced the wide variety of congregation archetypes and elder archetypes. Yeah, 14 different congregations. Wow, that's a lot. I thought I'd traveled around a lot. The witnesses can lie for the sake of the organization. Absolutely, they can. Spiritual warfare, It's disgusting. Yes, please. Okay, so this is in response to Anna's question. It's crazy when I hear about things like this. I can't imagine the mental gymnastics people in New York go through. And that's exactly what it is. And how people have struggled mentally once they leave. Riley struggled a lot and it was hard to watch. Yeah, I definitely did struggle a lot. And even after I was out, like in the early stages of our relationship, I was still doing the mental gymnastics, like before I woke up. Marsha reminded me of some of the things that I'd said, in the early days before I woke up, and I was still trying to defend the organization. I don't know if you've experienced this yourself, but in my experience, people who are physically out but still mentally in, they defend the organization more aggressively than anyone else. And it's weird. I still can't understand why. But I was one of them. I was one of those people, definitely. Oh, this is interesting. I knew you, Riley. I saw you in Woolworth in the Kingdom Hall on Cold Harbour Lane because your voice is very nice. Thank you, Anna. Wow. So I'm guessing Anna isn't your name. So I'm not sure who you are. Message me and tell me who you are. I might remember you. But yeah, definitely. I was in Woolworth congregation from 1994 to 1998. Wow, small world. Nesbo. Oh God, I was the same, but you can go anywhere in the world and be invited to someone's house for a meal and a bed for the night. Yeah. That was something that I held on to even after leaving. One of the things that made me think that, okay, I've had my issues and the organization has its issues, but it's still the truth because a Jehovah's Witness could travel anywhere in the world and, and find hospitality among other Jehovah's Witnesses. Sarah Davis, I defended it for several years. Yeah, I'm sure we all did. I was POMI for 8 years and would defend the JWs until I woke up to the truth about the truth. Yeah, me too. I've definitely been there. Okay, so, let's put this back up again. If you'd like to join the conversation, please click that link. Yeah. I guess like I said, this was a very, very last minute impromptu live stream. So I understand if there hasn't been any advance notice for anyone to be prepared enough to come on, and that's completely fine. But if you would like to, that is the link. So I'm going to leave this open for another 15 minutes or so and see what happens. Nesbo, just because a lot of people are lovely doesn't make the doctrine true. When I realized that, it helped my awakening. Absolutely true. And Rack, I'm a PMO. I refuse to do their mental gymnastics outside the JW world. Their semantics don't really work in the real world. Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things that I had to learn when I came out of the organization, is that I had to learn to speak differently. I had to learn to speak differently. It was the first time in my life that I'd ever felt, well, the first time since leaving school, I'd say, that I actually felt socially awkward. I never thought of myself as being a socially awkward person, but when I left the organization and was around, non-witnesses 24/7, I felt so awkward and so different. I had to learn a complete new set of etiquette, and it was really, really challenging. Wolf says you can go to any McDonald's in the world and get a Big Mac. A Big Mac is a Big Mac. Welcome to the one true restaurant. That's hilarious. But totally true. It doesn't mean anything, really. It doesn't mean anything. Joanne says, yes, travel anywhere in the world and then get locked off. Yeah. Oh, we've had that comment already.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. It was nice to see you on the documentary, Riley, at the Christmas table, enjoying to be free and chowing down. Yeah. Yeah. So I was briefly in the documentary. I was at the Christmas dinner. And I think you can see a glimpse of me for a second or two towards the end. P.S. We had Call Bethel recently. Good podcast. Yes, Call Bethel was excellent. It was an excellent podcast. It got a lot of attention as well. I still don't think it would have gotten as much attention as this, simply because of the type of medium that it is. Television, I'm sure still draws in much more people than podcasts. But yeah, very, very good and very well researched, very well produced and presented. I would call him, but there's a believer hanging around in the background here listening. Oh, no. Oh, no. So you're either PMO or maybe in a divided household, unfortunately. I'm sorry. There was a comment earlier from Anna. Yeah, this one. I think we were more likely to try and defend the religion back then. Now they flee. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Let's see if there are any more comments. Oh, thank you. We need more XJW celebs willing to come out and speak. Yes, absolutely. Especially, I know I'm probably saying this out of a little bit of bias, but especially in the UK, I think we particularly need this in the UK.
Yeah, the numbers were surprising. The amount of chokes witnesses here.
Has the chat moved? Can't see any comments. No, the chat hasn't moved. Has the chat moved, Mrs. Jexit?
No.
No, the chat hasn't moved, Bailey. I'm not sure what's going on with your screen there. Rose C. I hope more CSA victims of JWs come forward, and Rebekah Vardy exposing them and how hard it has come forward. I hope she made it a little easier for them. Yeah, that's the thing. Things like this often have a snowball effect. So the more people that come out and speak out, the more people are encouraged to do the same. So yeah, I hope that happens. I'm trying to think of any more celebrities in the UK who are ex-JWs. I can't think of any. I'm sure there must be some, but I can't think of any. Yeah, that's why we need more in the UK to come forward. I'm sure there are several. Jeannie says they are no longer able to recruit and haven't done for years. So it's down to the younger generation. They are leaving. So the witnesses will be a dying breed. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The younger generation are just leaving in droves. And I think the internet has a lot to do with that. This is a generation that have grown up with Google. You know, it's second nature to them to just ask Google questions. And there's no way they're not going to Google Jehovah's Witnesses, even though they're told not to. It's just what they do. Yes, ginger spice. Yes, that's true. Jerry Halliwell from the Spice Girls is an ex-JW. Yes, and Luke Evans. Yes, that's yep. I was aware of that, but I forgot. Peter Andre as well. I knew that one and forgot as well.
Was
Yeah.
there a comedian? You said there's a comedian?
A comedian. Can't remember. I've actually not met, but seen Peter Andre at a district convention. Yes, thanks for reminding everyone, Josh. Please, if you haven't already done so, please click the like button to get it seen by as many people as possible. It's my first name, but I only briefly was there. Yes, I remember your voice. I remember you reading the Bible. And here's your first name. To be honest, I have an extremely good memory for faces. I never, ever forget a face. Names, not so much. But in all honesty, while I was in Walworth congregation, because of my life circumstances at the time, I hardly paid attention to anyone or anything. I didn't even sing the songs most of the time. You know, I was in my late teens, early 20s, and very, very disinterested at the time. I was going through a lot as well. So yeah, I was just in and out of the Kingdom Hall most of the time there. Oh my God, Peter Andre. Yes, the comedian Jasper Carrott was married to a JW. I never knew that. I never knew Jasper Carrott was married to a JW. That explains a lot, actually, because he's one of the comedians that I remember from the 80s who ridiculed the witnesses most. Most jokes on the TV about Jehovah's Witnesses were from Jasper Carrott. I mean, it was like he had a real grudge. He ripped into us like nobody's business, more than anyone else. So that would actually explain why. He had some good stand-ups about the JWs. Yes, he did. I remember them. I remember them very, very well. I remember thinking, what is this guy's problem? Why does he hate us so much? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Wow, that's really interesting. I did not know that. Okay. All right. So we're coming up to an hour now. So I doubt there'll be anyone who will be available to come on. So yeah, just let's wrap it up. But thank you so much for everybody who came on and participated. Really, really appreciate it. It was a very short notice, so yeah, completely understandable. But please, if you haven't watched the documentary, please watch it. I'm going to put a link to it in the description down below. I didn't get to put a lot of information down there because it was so last minute. But thanks everybody for watching, and see you in the next one.
Thank you so much for watching to the very end of the video. If you haven't already done so, please like, leave a comment and subscribe to the channel. If you like my work and want to help me continue doing it, please support me on Patreon at patreon.com/Jexit_2020.